Shabbat shalom, everybody. Rob Shmuel, Rashbi here. I haven't said that in a while, even though I've been labeling my recordings, my 10-minute Torahs, as Rashbi. Rabbi Shmuel ben Yehoshua, Rabbi Stephen Epstein, for your English pleasure. And with this week's 10-minute Torah, as I call it, with the Parsha Baha'alotcha, as we start delving into the book of Numbers. Now, I'm starting to get to the point where I kind of like to wear different clothes sometimes when I'm doing these recordings to kind of, oh, just make a point to highlight something about my life. So you'll see it says grit volleyball. I have been fortunate. I know some people will use the term blessed. Um, I really didn't like that term. I felt like it was just contrived, not real, just blessed. I'm blessed. Why are we blessed? Because we work hard for things and we get rewarded because our efforts meet with success. Blessed. When I think of blessed, I think, oh God, just said, oh, I'm in a good mood today. I think I'll give you something. I don't believe that. I don't believe in that. I believe that, the old saying, God helps those that help themselves. Why are Jews so successful? Because we work hard, because we face such adversity and we've worked hard to overcome it. And we hold values like education and tenacity, and of course, spirituality and morals and ethics and humanity. We hold all that dear. So this is why we succeed. I like to think of Judaism as a success story, not the only success story, but as a success story. So speaking of success stories, I discovered, as I think some of you know, that about a year ago, um, my wife had put me on ancestry.com about 5, 6 years ago. And you get the usual second cousin, third cousin, a couple of whatever they use to measure it, some DNA, and oh, wow, this person, I'm related to this person. So imagine our surprise when almost a year ago, we got a notification that there was a 50% DNA match, daughter. Found out I had a daughter. Didn't know. Had a short-term relationship with a young lady when I was in college. She was there, just kind of spending time there. I was going to school. We had a brief and intense relationship. I won't say it that way. She also, it was brief, but she moved on to a few other guys. Then she left the area. I will say that we've all had, or some of us at least, have had, my face is getting red, right? Experiences like that. And lo and behold, it produced a daughter. So the conditions were such that that I wasn't able to know. I'm just going to say that. And thanks to Ancestry and their .com and their wonderful process, we were able to discover each other, as we call it, reunited. And now my family has expanded. And I feel very fortunate to have the family I do. I've got a wonderful wife that supports me and helps the temple. I mean, she does this in her own way. Um, she's a complete Rebbitzin. Now, it's different in the conservative movement than the Orthodox, where they separate men and women all the time. But she's a big asset to the synagogue. She does flyers and pamphlets for events. She's on the sisterhood board. She contributes. We do chair covers, things like that. It's wonderful. My son, I have my son. He's very, very much into studying Judaism, and we have conversations and arguments and debates. And now I find out I have a family that, wonderful. The two younger granddaughters are both amazing at volleyball. I've been out there, I've watched them, and other part of the country, I've watched them play. Got the two older daughters are wonderful in their own right. One of them is going to school, making chancellor's list. The older one is paving her way, through life, and it's just my son-in-law is just an amazing person with 3 master's degree, just got promoted. And my daughter is so much like me. She looks like me, has like a lot of my physical features, a lot of my emotional and spiritual features, even though they're not Jewish. She was adopted at birth. And she's very, very spiritual, very religious, very much into fitness the way I am. And, we see things very similarly. It's been a great experience. So that's why I'm wearing the sweatshirt today. Okay. Um, Family sometimes surprises you. There are some family members we don't get along with, some we do, some we hold very dear, and they're family, they're very, very close. They're not just loved ones, they're friends, and it's just a wonderful thing to have family. Okay. All right, enough of that for now. Let's talk about Baha'alotcha. So in this portion, our triennial reading focuses on the menorah. So at the end of the last Parsha, Naso, of course, we had Shavuot in the middle, or we had Shavuot, then Naso, and now Baha'alotcha. We had, and again, this wasn't in our triennial reading, but at the end of the actual Parsha, the full Parsha, you had the princes, the representatives of the various tribes, bringing contributions for the Mishkan, bowls, ladles, things like that, materials to outfit and furnish the Mishkan, the portable tabernacle in the wilderness that would eventually become our temple. This portion opens up discussing the menorah. This is our triennial portion, the first part. And it talks about God telling Moses how to make the menorah. And a lot of sages say, well, Moses didn't actually make it because he couldn't conceive of it because God said, take this big blob of gold and hammer it out into a menorah. And, Bezalel and Holiab, the two contractors, scratching their head going, what do we do with this thing? And God said, look, throw it in the fire. Out comes the menorah. And some of us, like me, think of a menorah as, just this little ornament that we pull out for Hanukkah, um, which it isn't, by the way. There's actually two menorahs. There's the Hanukkah menorah has four stems on either side and one in the middle. So there's nine branches. And it's because, the oil, the olive oil, the pure olive oil, lasted 8 days instead of the usual one day, time enough for the Judeans, the Maccabees, to be able to press and refine and make new olive oil, make it pure enough, purify it so that it could be used in the menorah. Okay, but that's later on. The original menorah had three stems on either side. Let me see if I can do this with my fingers. Okay, and then the one in the middle. And notice I'm angling them because some people feel that it was angled, that the three on either side were angled toward the middle. Some do, some don't. Again, 5 Jews, 10 opinions, right? Um, but let's look at what a menorah is, okay, and why. First of all, seven, okay, number of completion, right? 7 days, you get Shabbat, day of rest. 7 weeks, Passover to Shavuot, right? The giving of the Torah. 7 months, the spiritual new year, Rosh Hashanah. 7 years, the Shemitah year, the land gets a rest. 7 times 7 weeks, 49, the 50th year, land reverts to ancestral owners. Slaves go free, whether you got your ear bored through with it all or not, and so it's a number of completion. In fact, a little Kabbalah for you. A lot of people feel that in the year 6000, right now it's 5786, a few more years, and we're going to have the Messianic age in the year 6000, because then we'll be in the seventh millennium. Okay, so take it as you will. I don't know if I'll be around. Hopefully, I like to think my spirit, my soul, my nefesh, my neshama, my ruach will be around to see it, and would love to see, peace on earth, goodwill toward everybody, right? So, why the importance of the menorah? Okay, well, it was a light. Yeah, but why not just a light? Why not a bunch of lamps all over the place? Why not have seven lamps? Why have this menorah, that had the three stems on either side and the one in the middle? Okay. Yes, it was symbolic. But what exactly is light? Have you ever thought of it? What is light? What is fire? That's what it is. Fire is pure energy. It is energy that exists in the material realm. Okay, I could pick up different things. I can, this pen, it's material. I can pick it up, I can hold it, I can look at it, see if it smells, taste it. I wouldn't do that, but it's got mass to it. What does fire have? I mean, you can't hold it. I mean, you can try, you'll get burnt, right? But fire is pure energy. And when we think about it, isn't that symbolic of God? Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying fire is a god. It should be revered and worshiped and used as a representative of God. No, no, not only would that be blasphemy, but it's patently untrue. But if God is ineffable, and that's really the meaning of the word ineffable, if God is something that can't be seen, touched, heard, tasted, perceived in a material on a material level, but we know God is there on an instinctual, spiritual level. Okay, it's probably fire is the closest thing to the nature of God without being God. And I want to emphasize that. I'm not telling you to be idols, idol worshipers here. Okay. But when we think about fire, energy, the pure idea of something that just exists in a different state than everything else, okay, it reminds us of God, that God is ineffable, that God is untouchable, but God is there and God acts and God works and God gives us sustenance and God guides our path to fulfillment. Okay. And I want to leave you with that. Okay, folks, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for indulging me. Hope you have the same family experiences as I did. Shabbat Shalom.